Yo, what is up? Welcome in. Glad to see you here. Today's going to be a little bit more casual than what we tend to do. So no exhaustive programming or learning new design patterns for me this evening. But I always like hanging out with you guys. What's up, Rod? And we'll see how this goes. I've got a Discord server, and some of my community members, I've told them they can come in and chat with me if they want to. So we're going to find out who wants to come on and talk. Should be fun. There we go. We got my rock salt lamp all lit up. Who doesn't love to just talk about Tmux and neovim, right? Like, why would that not be a great time? What's up, Andres? We'll see if anyone's brave enough to join me on the Discord server. But I'm there. We'll have to make sure I don't have a double too many people coming in at once. So I've got some things that I've been enjoying lately, and I don't think I've come out and explicitly talked about it. I think maybe a few live streams ago, I gave an overview of some of the things that I really like. And so if anyone decides to watch this as a recording, it might be interesting. However, I want questions from all of you. How is your terminal setup going? Are you guys in the terminal full time? Are you not? If not, why not? I'm not here to convert anyone and say you have to be in the terminal, right? You have to download neovim, and that's the only way. But that is a lot of what I talk about here. So I think it would be interesting to get some feedback or to even help anybody in particular. But I had a big week, and I have a big weekend ahead of me. So sometimes we just got to slow down outside of work and take it easy. So we'll see where this night goes. I'm also thinking it could be fun to like download a new plugin and see what happens. I think Ian might come on. I don't know if he's here yet. He probably would have said something if he was. I know that we were talking about some new Tmux plugin ideas. So as many of you might know, I've authored two. There's a third one that I've forked and been maintaining and adding features to. And I have some more ideas, primarily driven around this idea of like, every project has a dev server, every project has a build step, every project tends to have some sort of testing. And so I want to kind of explore that idea and see if there's some ways in which you could sort of standardize those practices and create a more optimized Tmux workflow that makes it like stupid simple and quick and easy to spin things up and tear things down without having to like constantly be manually triggering things in the terminal, which is what a lot of people probably do. And then I've also spent some time with work trees. So now that I really like work trees, I want to start to come up with ideas on how to take what I've learned from work trees and try to apply it to a broader audience like all of you, and like, how could you use work trees to make your life better? So far it's been really good, but I have been sort of sitting on it because I want to get a sense of how it works and, you know, understand it better and kind of put it through its paces and try to figure out how far the work tree stuff actually benefits me and how much of it gets in the way. Do any of you use Git work trees? I'm curious. I think some of us in the community have talked about it. I personally only really reach for it on big projects where I have either big refactors or a big change in dependencies, things like that. At least for the day job, it tends to be more project focused now, which is interesting. Andres, you went on vacation. Cool, man. That's exciting. Always like being able to get away. Hope you had a good time. And talking about work trees, there's lots of people that have already said a lot about work trees. So I would just want to, I think my main focus has been like, how do you be more efficient and how do you get to what matters to you more quickly? And the other thing that I've valued lately is doing all of those things with as little effort as possible. So like low effort, high efficiency is very possible. But there are some opinions that come with that. And I found that the more people I talk to about this stuff, there's definitely difference of opinions there. What's going on? Hey. So does anyone have any questions? I can pull up my screen and we can fiddle around with the terminal like I always do, but does anyone have any specific questions for me? Anything you want to dive into or talk about? I don't think anyone's joined me yet on the Discord server, which is fine. I got my records. Well, let's see, I'm mirrored. I can't play my records on stream though, for copyright reasons. Yeah, that's all right. I know lots of people like to come and hang out. This is a relaxed day, so we're just kind of hanging. People are quiet, so I don't know if there's anything in particular someone wants to talk about. But let's see, I'm gonna actually display. Let's change this display to something smaller. Let's see though, this might be fun. What if we just went to my stars and we glanced at what has drawn my attention recently? So ML Flexer is in the community. He's in the Discord server. He's playing around with this modal bindings for WesTerm, which is pretty cool. So you can have like Vim-like modal bindings. So you can like do splits and resize, and there's different modes. He's calling it a UI mode, a scroll mode, a search and copy mode. So all things that are sort of available to us in Tmux. But in talking about it today, you know, I don't leverage these features all that much. I mean, scrolling I do, for sure. Everybody does. And zooming and rotating and all those kinds of things I do with Tmux. So it's always interesting to see someone else implement something. And in this case, he's got, you know, 50 commits. He just started working on this, to my knowledge, and so it's cool to see. And I think Zellige even has similar features as well. Mac DeMarco fan, yeah, I like Mac DeMarco. I don't have very many. I think that's the only record of his I actually have. Let's see. Hard Time. This one was interesting. I don't know if anyone is new to neovim. I know some of you are saying you are. This one like basically tells you when you've done something inefficient, like, oh, you spammed the J key. And so maybe you need to like slow down and like do it a different way. As someone who's been using Vim bindings for like a decade, this is not something that I would want to potentially use anytime right now, but it's a cool idea. And I bet even with someone like me who spent this long in Vim, there were probably things that this would tell me, hey, what are you doing? Why did you do that? Maybe don't. Like, don't use arrow keys on mouse, use relative jump, vertical movement, motions, that kind of stuff. So it's just trying to drive a better behavior. And so this one is called Hard Time, which I think is funny. Quit bad habits, right? No more bad habits. So that one was cool and fairly popular. What else has piqued my interest lately? Here's a Tmux session manager written in Go, which is similar to what all the work I've been doing. You can see that it's 10 years old though, 9 years old. But it came across my research recently. And so It uses, how does this one work? Yeah, it's a CLI. Cool. I think what was interesting about this is it can like save using the config style. So we've been talking and using this a lot recently in all the sesh development. And so this is just one of those other options, which I actually do want autocomplete to work for sesh. I've played around with it on fish, but I haven't totally worked it out. So it may be interesting to like see what they do. Oh yeah, so it's just a definition file. So I need to write one of these one day. Maybe we will. We could even go to sesh. Wait, I have autocomplete. Oh, interesting. There. You guys are quiet today. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys keep up with anything I say on Twitter, but I tried this and I sort of blasted it out as like, hey, this is cool. I do this. It's a way of changing the frequency of your speakers or your headphones to match up with Apple's, in my case, it's Apple Music. Yeah. So, the bit rate, is it bit rate? Would that be the right term? The frequency basically is different from track to track. And what I learned is speakers settings. Where do we go? It's a super weird audio. I think it might be this one. Yeah. So if we go to like my audio engine 2, that's not good. External headphones. You can change the frequency. However, you have to do it manually through this screen. And that application claims to be able to switch. It kind of worked, but then it would like crash or freeze, and it like killed my battery really, really quickly. And so unfortunately, I can't get this to play nice. So a little disappointing, but it was a cool idea. Of course, we can't go without talking about Glamour. So this will be a tool that I do plan on use more of in the future. And so it is a style sheet-based markdown renderer for your CLI apps. So it's a way of basically rendering text so that it looks pretty. You can like prettify your stuff, which I think Primogen was working on stuff this week with some of the bubble tea tooling, which is cool to always see someone bigger than me using Go and all of these amazing libraries. Tmuxifier, of course. This one was super interesting. Maybe I'll spin this up and show you guys how it works. This is one of those open source language model. Basically, it's like an operating system driven by an LLM. And the way that it works, let's see if it does anything. This may blow up in my face. It hasn't been very good at it so far, but O1 software. And what do we want to run? I think it's Python. Okay, come on. Now I don't remember. All right, let's go back. It tells me here, poetry, that's what it is. Poetry, run. Does this like kill? O1. And so the way this works is the demo of it originally is they have some sort of physical device. But right now what I can do with it is I can hold the space bar, talk to my computer, and ask it to do something. So let's try something simple like, let's see. Search the web for cat memes. And it's supposed to be able to know, okay, go to the internet, take a search result, do a thing, and look, okay, so it understood me. Did you guys hear that? Chat, let me know if you heard that. So apparently it can do this, but we may end up getting errors because it's buggy, and I haven't seen it work consistently yet. Yes, I know. Oh, and it'll reattempt, not over and over and over and over again, but it will reattempt sometimes. I haven't done anything successful with this yet to go, oh my gosh, this is amazing, I want to do that. But you can see, like, it doesn't want to work. So that's a bummer. But imagine one day that it could. I guess that's the promise. See, yeah, I can't do that for you. No. No. So it's like, it's on its way. No sound. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I don't know if I have to like give my camera. OBS was supposed to be pumping sound out, but maybe it can't. Yeah, because I think it'd be fun to do like one of those reaction videos, you know? So I'll have to figure that out one day. Anyway, Owen, cool idea. Exciting that you could like have a voice assistant that can do things on your computer for you. I like the idea a lot. I think it's fun, but it hasn't really done anything useful for me yet in my attempts. But it's meant to like be able to navigate Mac OS or Linux. I think they talk about Ubuntu here, yeah. So maybe one day I'll let you know if it ever goes anywhere. But, you know, I like LLMs. There's all these things that I've seen. And here we go back to our stream. We talked about this one. It's been good so far. I like reaching for Raycast AI to get a lot of things done. But if I know it's like an obvious thing and I want to play around with my tool more, I will still use GP NVim to say like, hey, change this text or fix this bug or implement this thing. And the bindings are all fairly intuitive, so I haven't felt like I had to remember everything. It's been interesting. It's been interesting. Source graph, git linker. No questions from you today, chat? Auto bleep, that's funny. Generate bleeped audio from video files. Oh, semantic search. This one was super cool. I haven't used it much yet, but the idea is very, very cool. So you may search for something on like your Obsidian Vault and it be like, oh, I don't know what those words mean in this order. But if you're doing, they show you this form of internet communication, right? SMTP or TCP connections show up immediately as results because those are semantically related to the search. So it's a cool idea for sure. Most of my second brain is using the para method and it's fairly well structured. So I haven't come to a point lately where I really need to reach. And I'm like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what the note's called. I don't know where the note is. So I need some sort of like generic semantic search like this. Hasn't been like top of priority for me. But I love the idea. I think it'd be very cool to integrate something like this in my workflow. So I probably won't show you guys my second brain here today. I know some people may want to know how I do note taking, but I probably won't do that today. Hey, cool. You're using Sesh, thank you. Any plans to support a section to define the windows a session should open? The short answer is it kind of already does that. I think the simplest way that some people have been using it is you could use Tmux. So Tmux is just a tool that lets you define things in YAML. And instead of loading sessions via this, you can, we were just talking about it today, you can attach to an existing session. So where is that? -A, no. It should be in here. Anyway, you could absolutely, I think we have an example, don't we? Because we did this before. Sesh, let's go ahead and kill that. Nice. So my sesh config is tied directly to Tmux. We were playing around with this idea. I don't think it ended up going that way. I personally have scripts, and this is like the bash way of spinning up windows. And so in this case, I just want to split the window by 10 lines and run my D script, which is basically a developer script. And then I switch to the other pane and I open up Vim. And so that looks like this. It just automatically starts, and the dev server automatically spins itself up here, which we're going to kill that so it doesn't open my browser. So yeah, that's an easy way to do it. You just have to kind of learn Tmux vocabulary, which if you're already using Tmux, that would make sense, right? Tmuxinator and Tmuxifier and all of those other tools, we might be able to just integrate those tools directly if we wanted to say like Tmuxifier sessions should be loaded by sesh. And then if you choose one, that selection can be used later to spin up the session. Totally possible, but I have found that that complexity is unnecessary for my workflow. And so far, I've been leaning on the side of simplicity. I like keeping it simple. This is about as complex as it gets for me. Like start a dev server, and you'll see like if we go to like downloads automatically opens up my file manager. So again, it's just like an entry point. Like what am I going to do when I go to this session? Not so much, I need these windows and I need these panes and I need this whole thing all set up for me, please and thank you, and run and do this. And so I feel that sort of stuff is super useful for some people, but hasn't been my approach to Tmux. And so if I want to start a dev server, I can hit, let's go to Keycaster. Let's show you guys what I'm going to talk about. Here we go. So let's move this guy over here. I guess we'll move it here. All right. So I hit Command D, and well, that's not going to work because there is no Command D there. Go back to this one. I can hit Command D, and it will start up a dev server and a split it automatically, but only when I want it, which is great for most of my projects. If I want to build, I hit Command B. It just builds the project. And when the build is done and successful, my script will say, okay, you can hit Q to escape, or you can hit escape to escape. And so I can just hit Q and I go back to what I'm doing. If I want to open LazyGit, I hit Command G for Git, and boom, there's LazyGit. It opens up as a new window. And if you quit using, I just use Q most of the time. So if I hit Q or escape, right, both work, it just closes that window and puts me back to what I'm doing. So I can be in the terminal, right, and I can do this, and I can hit Q, and I'm back on the terminal. I could be in neovim and do the same thing. And so super, 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 super simple, but incredibly efficient because it's like a global binding. So any project I'm in any project, and you'll notice that when I use sesh, most of the sessions I go to are Git projects. That's just sort of how my development workflow works. So even like WesTerm, the entry point is the WesTerm config file. So when I do that, I'm just going to open the WesTerm config file. And again, I can hit Command G, and it'll pull that up. And so that's sort of my mindset. And I can hit Command N for new and Command Shift N for vertical new. And so those things are still helpful. And again, Command W to close things, Command T to create new windows. So if I want, I can do that really, really quickly with all the bindings that are the same for all the other macOS apps, right? But kind of like on steroids, because the things that I want to reach for, like, oh, I want to build, right? If I want to be, we'll go back to my project. If I want to build, I hit Command B, right? And that's usually like bold or something, but in development world, that's really all that matters, right? And so I'm allowed to do some substitutions for some of those primary key bindings because they just make sense. It's just really simple for me. Yeah, Andres was talking about when using Sesh and Raycast, do you need to have the Tmux server? You do. We've done some development on this, but basically, for those that aren't familiar, I need to like realign my Raycast center. I forget what the command is. Align center? What is the command? Does anyone remember? Reset window position. There we go. So you do need Sesh to be, you need Tmux server to be running when you interact with the Raycast extension. So for those that are Raycast fans, Sesh works really well with Raycast as a companion. It's not really a replacement for something like this, right? I have a fuzzy pop-up that's bound to Command K. It's not really a direct replacement to that. There's some limitations, including, yeah, if it's not running, it's going to say, hey, Tmux isn't running. Please start Tmux before using this command. So the short answer is, if you were to try to create a Tmux session from Raycast when Tmux isn't running, it's like a really strange, like non-user terminal request. There's some sort of separation between the commands that are executed here. In fact, if we were to connect to this, if we were to connect to these sessions, right, when I run this command, I'm not running a switch command. I'm actually running, no, let's rephrase that. I'm not running a attach command from Raycast. I'm actually just firing a switch command indirectly. And so basically all these commands are very indirect. So it's a little unfortunate, but it is what it is. I don't use this very much. I think it's cool that it exists. And when I think about it, I go, oh yeah, that's great. But I almost always am on and in the terminal. So I either switch back with, I use Alt-A to go back to the terminal, Alt-W for the web. And so I'm usually doing this, and then I'll hit Command K, right? And so this is my life. If you were to watch me work, you would see a lot of those bindings. What's up, Ian? Ian's here. Dude, I'm so glad that we found some inspiration. That's cool. Yeah, I try my best to offer as much wisdom as I can from all of this. I really enjoy it. So there'll be a Sesh video coming out soon. I've told a few people about it. It is coming. My life's a little crazy, so I don't have a lot of time for video editing, but I'll make more time. And so that video will come soon. So look out for it. Ian, I knew you would ask this. I knew this was coming. So Joe has been working on this feature. He put it down for a while. I think he was on the job hunt, and he's got family and stuff, so life got in the way. I didn't really try to pick it up much, but there is a fork, not a fork, there is a branch that does do this, but it's a little clunky right now. It kind of like opens Raycast on this screen and then selects the session that was defined. So it's like a little bit of a weird flash. And I don't think that's good enough to ship the feature. But yes, that is a potential feature to come soon. And what he's talking about is basically if I wanted to do like this, I want to go to my Dotfiles, right? Cool, I can go to my Dotfiles. But let's say I was just somewhere else. And let's just say I didn't pull up Raycast and I didn't select the session that I wanted. What if I just said, I have a global key binding like, I don't know, like Option Shift D always takes me to my Dotfiles project, no matter what. The current limitation is, of course, Tmux has to be running. So these kinds of shortcuts would only be useful when they're running, but it does work. It's a little clunky, as I said. It does work, so I'm excited to see. I think Joe mentioned he might pick that up again. So be on the lookout for that. I think it would be really fun. But to be honest, I do a lot of this. That's my, it's a little bit of like key cording, I guess. But that's how I get around. And so if I want to go to code, boom, I go to code. I have been playing around with this idea. I don't know what you guys think about this, but like, let's kill Tmux. Let's just say I want to look at a project. Like I want to, not a project, I want to investigate code of a neovim plugin. So we know that all the neovim plugins live in a particular place. So I came up with this idea. It's an interesting idea. It's not a perfect thing yet, but I'll show you how it works. Lazy plugins automatically pulls up this fuzzy feature. This is just a custom fuzzy script. And I can go like, oh, I want to like go to the Capuchin library. And so we can see here that I can see the README for that project. And this session, you'll notice it's going to go away. It's going to create a Capuchin session. And the previous session that was there gets closed automatically. So it kind of just goes away. So is this like segue session? Could we call it that? We can close that again. Lazy plugins. So I can go, I want Octo. And it takes me to Octo. And again, the lazy plugin session goes away. And the lazy plugins thing, it really just does one thing, action preview, right? And I can see, oh yeah, that's what this is, cool. A neovim plugin that preview with LSP, yep, installation, yep. Choose it, and now it just gives me my file picker. So that's been fun. I just came up with that this week. I think that's an interesting idea. We could definitely apply the same thing to my code directory. So if we were to do that, some of these are work trees, so the logic wouldn't be quite the same. But anyway, if you know that every folder is a project, and you know that there's a README in every project, because that's kind of a standard, this was a fun little idea, which I might actually want to sort these by case insensitive. Or I could do something more complex, and I could say list by most recent like use or something, and that could be interesting. But I just feel like that was worth showing off. It's interesting. We're just talking Tmux and neovim today, so here's a combination of those things. Diffuse, one of the projects I really like. And so again, pretty cool. I've had fun with that so far. And then the next step, Ian, and the thing I was looking at as potentially a next Tmux plugin is this idea of like, let's go to like, let's go here. If we were to just talk about the most basic version of this, it might be like, instead of this, it might be capital B. and it would just be some simple like npm run. We would JQ. Get rid of that. How to JQ the scripts from a package JSON. Come on. Oh, Cloud Opus. I don't need Opus, but it's just going to be JQ scripts, right? And so we can imagine let's go back to this project. So here are my scripts. Get just the key values. I think you just pipe on JQ, you pipe and you give it a key value. So you say, give me keys. Yeah, like that. So if we were to just do this together, there are all of the options without quotes. Let's see if it knows what that means. You could probably see where I'm going with this. Maybe you could guess. There we go. So we've got that. And then we could pass it into FCF and we can say, I want to build, please. Right? And I think some of you probably already have a script that kind of does this. But taking it a step further, what we could say is in my Tmux config, I want to create a new window. So maybe we do something like this. Choose script, maybe like a capital R, run a script. Do we have anything bound to capital R? I don't think so. Let's check. Nope. Okay. So we split, and then we immediately would run this thing. I don't know if this is going to be enough. It would be like npm run thing. This probably all could be wrapped in a bash script, but now we'll go back to Wes term and we'll say that we want R mapped to R. That's all I got to do, and then I can try it. And that's not going to work, is it? If I go to this project. Do I have it bound to something already? Let's try. Let's try a different binding. Let's try capital Y. That's a weird one, but that should work. We're just going to kind of play around with it. So if I go to this project, boom. Oh, it spit all of those out. That's not what we want. FCF, how about that? By the way, for those that are wondering, how did he save that and it just worked? I do highly, highly recommend in your neovim config, on your auto commands, that you set up a auto buffer, auto command that says, hey, when I write to Tmux conf, I will silently source this file on the server. And so then you just hit save and it just Tmux updates. If you don't believe me, we can do like, instead of top, we can do bottom. We hit save and look at that, it moves to the bottom. Back to the top, hit save, it goes to the top. So highly, highly recommend if you're a Tmux person to set this up. And if you want it, here it is. So that's kind of fun. Let's see. Let's try what I was trying to do. All right. So we want to go here and we say, hey, I want to do a thing. Okay, I want to format, I want to build, I want to start. Let's say I want to build. And then just like that, it starts to build. So pretty cool. It works fairly well. Dev, right? And that starts a dev mode. So again, useful for when I do this a lot in work. So like, let's say new main model. I might want to lint. And so that's a lint. It'll close sometimes when it gives me an exit code, which is kind of annoying. So I may have to figure that out. What's the other one I do? Like, this is a work project and I might want to generate. And so that is some code gen tooling. And so I can already see, like, tomorrow, that's going to make my workday better. Do you like that idea, Ian? Would you see yourself adding something like this to your workflow? In fact, I would actually do no border, because I think that's nice and clean. Test. Interesting. Well, I know my tests don't work in that project. Oh, what does that mean? So that's some stuff I've been experimenting with, playing around with. I like the idea of like mapping all the most common things you do with every project. You build a project, you start a dev script on a project, you run tests on a project. Maybe you generate certain things with code gen tooling. Like just having that mapped to a single key binding. And in my case, I like the sort of split of 10. It's been working out really nice for me lately. But something that I have done in the past, let's just do like this. We go like build. And if we want to see this in a different format, you can swap the layout. I don't know if I don't use this one too much, but I've started using it more, where you can hit prefix space and it will give you a different layout, which is kind of cool. But again, for this project, I just have the dev script start because the only really reason I go to this project is to make a change to the website. And so most of the time it's good enough. By the way, for those that don't know, I just wrote an article a few days ago on packing up my Dotfiles using a tool called Stow. So that's been really nice. I would show it off, but it's really just one single command that says, hey, symbolically link all of my config files to my home directory, please. And that's it. That's all it does. Andres, I get this, man. You used to have different commands running. Now you have each process in its own window. I don't know if you knew this. I don't do it too much nowadays, but you can actually separate. You can detach this guy. What is it? I forget what it is. Create new window. You can basically take a pane and you can detach it if you want. I bet the most simple way to show this off. Select pane, split windows, swap pane, unlink. No, it's not linking. Anyway, I don't use it much, but I think it could be interesting for someone like you who's like, I want this in its own window. It didn't start that way, but you can move it. Let's see. Join. You can join panes like split window, but instead, oh, maybe it is split window. There's no split window here. Anyway, so like this guy, we can say split window. No? Maybe it's like break. Anyway, do I remember it off the top of my head? No. Is it possible? Yes, I know it's possible. VM worlds, should I jump into VM? I mean, I could Dockerize something. I mean, but conceptually, it's super straightforward what it's doing. For those that are curious how these kinds of tools work, we go home, and you can see here that C Dotfiles are where my Dotfiles live, and then they get symbolically linked to the home directory. And the same thing is true for config. And so the files in the .config also, like bin and fish and invim and sesh and tmux and westterm and all these places where even starship are just things that you run Stow once and it copies all of these files as symbolic links. It's just like done in an instant. So very helpful. I don't really go into depth in that article. How to use it, I mostly just talk about my pain points for my previous tool and why I switched. I think that's always interesting insight for people that often want to leave a project or abandon a tool for a new tool. You know, there's some consequences to that, and there's sometimes difficult decisions to make sure that it goes smoothly, as well as the potential of overcomplicating what you have already, right? New tools often can bring more complicated things. And so just some mindfulness around that. And so, yeah, I was using something called Mackup before, and it was pretty opinionated and kind of going out of date. The people that were moderating it weren't really doing anything to it. They were just kind of leaving it as is. And we wanted more features as a community, and they never really came, so I decided to move on. So we're getting to the 45-minute mark. I probably won't stick around all night. There's lots of people lurking, so thank you for being here. You're sitting on your couch, or maybe you're hacking away and coding something in a far off place. So I appreciate you being here. Does anyone else have any questions or comments or interesting tech news that feels like it's worth bringing up right now? I don't see any like big changing like neovim packages or plugins worth trying right now, although we did glance through some of my stars. I don't even see a big draw right now at developing anything new. Some of you might know that I have dabbled with some some neovim plugins in Lua. I do like Lua. I think it's a cool language. I do know that there are some nice to haves in some of my favorite projects, like Octo. I was hoping to add hooks to that one day for like dynamic fonts. That would be fun. But yeah, I think right now the plan forward is to work more on Sesh. So thank you to all of you for the feedback so far. I'm just sort of calling this a 2.0 right now, where I'm trying to inject good dependency injection patterns and offer myself the ability to add a lot more testing. If you guys were around a couple months ago, I tried to test using like terminal integration tooling, and it kind of blew up in my face and was really complicated and weird and hard. So it's like integration tests in the terminal is not great, to say the least. I do think VHS offers a really cool set of tooling for creating like screen recordings, which is, I think, its main purpose. And the integration testing concepts were sort of extra. And so I probably won't revisit that, but adding good dependency injection patterns to Sesh will make it more testable, much more testable. So all of the complex logic of like, if I give you a session name in my connect command, how do you know which one it's going to connect to, right? So there's a lot of edge cases that I'm aware of. There's even a few bugs that have popped up, and I've squashed as many of the bugs as I've seen them, but as more bugs pop up, I'm like, I can't fully test the feature except for manually, which, as devs, we love to manually test, right? But I've gotten a really good cycle with neo tests to be able to run tests in line and attach to a debugger automatically in neovim. And that makes me wildly productive when it works. And so for the most part, it's stable now. However, Sesh isn't fully capable yet of applying all of those things. So I'll probably stream that more, maybe next week, the week after. We might be doing more Sesh development, learning how to decouple packages a bit more responsibly and iron out. I've actually found, as I'm doing this rewrite, there's a lot of stuff that I made assumptions on that are just not correct anymore. That's how coding goes. You make an assumption early on in the project, and then later on you make a new decision, and it changes those original assumptions. So we'll see where that goes. And you know me, I'm gonna keep being in Tmux land and neovim. I don't know if you guys, did anyone look at the Zellige updates? Since no one is giving me news, I'll give you guys news. Zellige has news. Look at this, 2 days ago. They got some new welcome screen features. They made improvements to the not file picker. They have some alias stuff. So super excited for the Zellige team. I'm still hoping that one day they can expose these session APIs. And maybe they might have here. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Would you like to see this? So Zellige has been doing a lot of work. Very cool session manager written in Rust, I believe. Sort of a predecessor to Tmux. I, as a Tmux plugin author, I can't translate those yet successfully to Zellige. And so I'm often not very productive in Zellige. It's a cool tool. I like it. But I just don't have all the capabilities that I would like in order to be efficient. But they're making progress. They have this whole session feature that is slowly growing. Maybe we could take a stab at Rust development if we felt like it. But so far, I've sort of kept my distance from Rust. But you can see here, they've got some cool stuff. Floating panes on specific coordinates, rearranging tabs. They have these aliases for plugins, which should help URLs. New possible key bindings. So very cool stuff. Performance improvements, of course, love seeing that. By the way, I bet Sesh 2.0 will most likely have some performance improvements as well. And so, yeah, it should be fun. So Dan, you don't like the key bindings. Oh, and you get everything right the first time. Yeah, of course. I think the Zellige modes are very cool. I think for me, if there's like a mental model that can just switch in my brain, that there are some very cool ideas there. Again, I just haven't been able to spend full time in Zellige, so it's hard for me to say that I like it a lot more, but it's different. Tafson asks, are you using the terminal for debug database browsing or editing? No, so my day job is mostly MongoDB, and so I just use the Compass app, which is good. It's not perfect, but it does a very good job. It lets me have connections that are saved. The filtering feature, it's actually kind of cool. I probably won't show it to you guys, but they have a new little AI feature that you can like ask for a query in plain English, and it'll generate the correct MongoDB query for you based off of the plain English, like an LLM generated thing. It works really well, so that's been a fun time saver. And then when it comes to like database migrations and stuff, I do a lot of in-memory database testing. So I do a lot of my sort of confirmation of code changes and database structure stuff and schema differences and stuff. I write unit tests for that stuff, run in-memory database stuff. So my day job, I wrote a Cedar package that lets me spin up entities that fit within the business model of our database. So like I need a property with, we're in the business of automating utility accounts. So typically there's a property and there's a utility account and there's, you know, other pieces of data involved in servicing those kinds of people. And so I can seed that into my unit testing code in memory, and then I can execute unit tests to do all sorts of assertions and make sure that the code is doing exactly what I think it's going to do. And then I'm able to run a CLI basically that I've written as well. So I have a whole workflow for like managing data and dealing with data that's working so far pretty well for me. However, I have some future projects I want to do on the side that would be more SQL based. And I think it would be really fun to get SQL editing done in the terminal and especially in some sort of TY, which I think there's a few out there. So it'd be really fun to see where that goes. Databod. That sounds familiar. What is it? Dadbod? Oh, yeah. I know what that is. The Vim one. Vim Dadbod. I ended up finding Mongoose to be so feature rich and instantaneous in everything I need it to do, and my team uses it as well, that it worked out to stick to that basically. Yeah, Dadbod's awesome. I do like Dadbod. I think it's a cool project. And they even have this new feature here. And I know it has Mongoose support, MongoDB support. So like, yeah, it would be cool to play around with this more. But MongoDB Compass is a very, very nice tool. So that's where I spend most of my time. I know it's a GUI. Are you guys upset? You're here for the Tmux neovim talk, and I'm talking about GUIs. But yes, T-Pope the goat, right? T-Pope is awesome. And Dadbod, how did he come up with that name? He is a funny guy. I feel like the original commit might tell us, when did he establish this project? Can we go backwards? I don't want to go forward every commit because there's going to be a lot of commits here. Anyway, it's funny. Dadbod is very amazing. Oh, look, I already start. It's a funny project. Yeah, the key mapping, Ian, I'd agree. Like, these tools are great if the key mapping's good. It's one of those things that, like, I don't know, some GUIs are fine. Like, they do exactly what they need to do. So beyond key mapping, I'm with you on key mapping. And let's talk about this because I think you're onto an interesting topic. Let's go back to the UI. Okay, so here's the UI. Is writing a query and having a split, is any of this significantly more efficient than just using a GUI that does all of these things already? So that's kind of the big question. It's like, is it better? If it's just because it's terminally focused, sometimes that's a selling point for people. That they're like, it's in the terminal, I don't have to leave the terminal, so I'm good. But if it's not better, then I just wouldn't argue that it's worth it. I did play around with this tool at some point. It could be fun to revisit. And maybe like SQL. I don't have a good SQL or SQLite based tool. And so maybe as I want to be better at doing database stuff, it might be worth my time. Nice. Look at all these tools. They have completion, which is cool. I could see like the Olama or the ChatGPT tools also being leveraged here, where I say, give me a query of this thing or that thing, and then having a specifically defined code gen tool that like can convert my sentence into the specific query language. So I could absolutely recreate that. I could maybe even make it better, but it's hard to sort of compare apples to oranges with the current tooling I'm using. Feels quite different. But you can remap everything, right? As Andres is saying, like everything can be remapped. So as long as it's exposed in some way, right? Andres, like you need to have an actual layer of implementation that lets you communicate with that. But in most cases with Vim, they're just like functions, right? There's certain things you can just call, you can hard code in your tmap definitions. Tafson, you make a good point about the mouse. We've been talking about it on the Discord server. So like, let's see, let's go to like a GUI. Let's go to like Finder. Right, if I want to move around, I can use the arrow keys or whatever, but I use something called home row, and home row will attach these labels to every clickable thing on the active window. And so now if I want to go to my para folder, I can do that. And if I want to go to resources, I can do that, right? And so, well, that one wasn't a good example. But it's been fun to play around with. I've been using home row a lot. And so even like the Compass app I was talking about, I use it a lot. So I'm like, I just want to get to the thing, like click where I want to click. I don't need to reach for the mouse much. So yeah, I'm pretty pro keep your hands on the keyboard, but there are very cool macOS apps that let you sort of simulate mouse clicks like home row. It's exactly like Vimium for Mac. Home row has been good so far. I haven't paid for a license yet, and it hasn't bugged me too much. We also talked about Shortcat being a good alternative. I did use Shortcat many years ago, and it was fine, but I never really fully adopted it. And I've been adopting home row, I would say. I use it quite a lot. Oh, interesting. So you have, Tafson, you have database connections tied to your sessions. I totally get that. Compass lets me have predefined databases, so I can have like database connection queries stored in the app. And when I open the app, I can say, this is the database I want, and I can click into it. So that is useful for me, but I totally get why like you would want specific connection strings and things like that tied to your project. Totally valid. The only thing is you have to be really careful, right? You have to, if it's in like your Dotfiles or your config files or something, you have to make sure not to track those in version control. So it can be a little bit tricky sometimes getting started with that sort of custom setup, but probably worth it once you do it once and use the same computer for 2-3 years, 5 years, however long until you totally beat down your computer. Andres, you're using Shortcat. Nice, man. Yeah, I like Shortcat. Maybe I could try it again, but home row's been good enough. I don't tend to use the whole find the thing by text, which I know Shortcut's good at. It's like, hey, I want to find the thing that's called dependencies on the screen, and I want to click that thing. Is that how you're using it? Are you like doing a query, like a string match with Shortcat, or are you using this sort of global click to do thing? Bye, Ian. Yeah, it's the top of the hour. I'm going to probably call it here in a few minutes. We got lots of people hanging out, though. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for saying hi. Some of you are saying hi. A lot of you are just sitting back. That's okay. Still glad you're here. It's a global. Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah, and I use Vimium. Yeah, so Vimium. By the way, Did you guys know that you can totally change the mappings of Vimium? Let's see if I still have mine. Let's actually go to it. Dotfiles, Vimium options. Yeah, so let's see if I still find them useful. Restore. Vimium options. Settings have been restored. Check this out. I, over the years, have been using it a lot. Instead of D and U for the default down and up, I can bind it to Control Up and Control D, which probably Arc is going to complain. Command F and B aren't built in. You know, like these are obvious ones. Control I and O for going forward and back. I don't know if you guys are used to Control I and O, but like in and out, I really like that. So I use it here. I use it. I in the past I've used this. I'll leave this in and see what happens. Toggling pin tabs. This one was an interesting idea of like deleting to the direction. So if we were here, let's see how it feels. Oh, if I like move this down, if we like delete there, yeah, interesting. And so it takes all the tabs and it deletes it in that direction. It doesn't, I don't think it translates quite the same. It doesn't translate very well in Arc because it's top down. So I may need to rethink this. Should be able to go back to options. Anyway, so at some point in the like DD, I liked the idea of DD deleting a tab. But some of you may have the muscle memory of D, so I totally get. I think I had YY. Is YY still a thing? Yanked. Yeah, so you can yank the URL, stuff like that. And then at some point, I went through the effort of styling it differently, but I don't think it's worth all that effort. What was it? Nord? Oh, there's an Arc version. Let's see if this one looks any different. Anyway, it can be fun sometimes to just play around with this. Yeah, it looks the same. It looks the same to me. But sometimes it's fun to play around with the defaults and just kind of see what you can do with it. Dude, Dan, you have to put Vimium on Arc. Like that's like a given, isn't it? That's the main one I use for productivity. I do like the new Raycast one. It's kind of cool. If you guys heard, Raycast has a companion extension now. React developer tools. I'm a React developer. Apollo client. We use Apollo for GraphQL on our React app. The JSON formatter, always handy to have. 1Password is my password manager, and then Readwise is the tool I use for read it later and tracking book highlights and things like that in my second brain. I think that's it. I think those are the only plugins. So I can explain all of them in just a couple of seconds. But like Vimium's my favorite for sure. I think I even have a article on it, don't I? It's an old article. Look how far back we have to go. Navigate the what with Vim bindings, March 6, 2016. So we're almost at 10 years on this article. How about that? How far have we come? It's all the basics here. Tell all your friends. Let's share the love. If you want to share my 8-year-old blog post and tell people that it's still good. Does this go to the right page? Look at that. It's still the same page all this time later. So that's cool. Right? Still useful. All right, chat. Well, I got a big day tomorrow, so I'm going to go. Thanks for hanging out, talking Tmux and neovim with me today. This was a very chill stream. I appreciate that because I'm not always here to hard code cord, hard code core. I can't say it. Hardcore code. Is that what I mean? Too bad we're not in Orlando. I hear all the fun is in Orlando this week. There's a React conference, I think, or a tech conference. So we have our fun here on our live streams, right? We got some spicy takes. Vimium C. You know what? I have heard of Vimium C. What do you like more about it? It's just a fork of the project, isn't it? I thought it was just a fork. Customized Vimium. Contextual mapping, global shortcuts, command sequences. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I've messed with this one before. Let me know if there's some like big obvious feature that you think's way better. But Vimium C, interesting. All right. Well, that's it for me. Thank you all for coming. Had a good time talking Tmux and neovim, and I'll very most likely be back next week coding. So if you want to watch me do some Go programming, we're doing some CLI work right now lately. I may do a remix project this year. So in the springtime, it's at least spring here in the US. I'm hoping in the next couple months to perhaps start a new web project because that's my specialty. And so I think that would be fun. So just keep your eyes peeled. I will mention, like I do at the very end of every stream, please join the community. Of course, I do live stream every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central in America's time. I'm on Twitch, I'm on YouTube, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm all the places when I stream. And we have a Discord server community, so go find the Discord button on my website and come join us. We have lots of conversations there about Tmux and neovim and shells and keyboards and monitors and all the nerdy stuff that us developers like to talk about. I'm on all the socials, so feel free to share the latest. Follow me on Twitter. I think I'm on Mastodon, but I haven't been too active. But I like talking on Twitter about tech stuff, so you can find me there day to day. And you'll definitely find me on Discord, so go there, and I'm always there to talk. So until next time, bye everyone.